So, IGN released a groundbreaking list of the top 100 games of all time. Needless to say, it's pretty underwhelming, and I think it's a great example of why you can't create a top anything greatest games of all time. So, a few communities have expressed their grievances with this list, and I understand why. For starters, IGN is a big company, and I would consider them as part of the top tier in video game journalism. And my reason for that is you can just type video game review in YouTube, and IGN takes up the majority of the first 10 results. This is a graphic that was created by a Reddit user in the gaming subreddit. I'm going to leave a link to the graphic and the IGN article itself in the description below. I've skimmed through both and can tell you that as of this date and time, the graphic is 100% accurate to the article, and this article is a revised or refreshed version of a 2019 article they did. So basically same shit, but a few things have changed. With all that out the way, I'm going to break down some key points that sort of point out why a list like this doesn't work out. So at the top we have Breath of the Wild, which, I think it should be somewhere close to the top, but I don't know about the best. I think gameplay wise it's a really solid game with a lot of stuff to do, but I've never played it all the way through more than once and never wanted to play it all the way through again. Something I hate about Zelda games is that they don't continue from where you left off after you beat the game. Like, it was obvious why they couldn't do that with the games up to GameCube, but by the time we reached the Switch, I feel like there should have been more after beating the game. It feels like every Zelda game is just get to the boss, beat the boss, watch the ending, reload the game too before you fought the boss. So let's go a little bit lower down the list to our next exhibit, which is HalfLife Alyx. I wanted to pick on this one just because it's very obvious that the person who wrote this article is a Half-Life fanatic. I'll agree that Half-Life Alyx is indeed a masterpiece and a great return to the Half-Life series. I don't know if it warrants being put on this list right above Halo, like the OG Halo. Obviously, Alyx is a lot better developed because Halo was created a few generations back, but it feels like an unfair comparison, and I personally wouldn't put Half-Life Alyx above Ocarina of Time. Speaking of an unfair comparison, it's time to pick out the golden nugget on this list, and honestly, this is where I started having a hard time determining if the author of this article was serious or not. Yeah, Tetris is so freaking high up on this list. Tetris is better than Doom, apparently. What's more intense than smashing blocks together? This little square here certainly has more character development than John Marston. I'm not going to stay long on this one. I just want to say that from this point forward, every time I saw a game that I thought actually belonged on this list, I had to keep reminding myself that it's not going to be better than a puzzle game that I played on a Super Nintendo. Alright, next they have The Last of Us Part 2, which I feel like was a little bit of a flawed game. It was a masterpiece for sure, but I feel like there was a lot to live up to after the original Last of Us. And for a 13-hour game, it didn't manage that task, at least not for me. I feel like it was a great game for sure, but not better than Resident Evil 4. Before I say this, let me just say that when you put a list like this on the internet, whether you want it to or not, it's going to be representing the best that a certain community has. And when you pick Donkey Kong and put it on this list, you need to specify which Donkey Kong country it is, or which Donkey Kong 3D game it is, or maybe the writers at IGN seriously believe that the original arcade Donkey Kong game is the best game in the DK series. Like, that is just mind-blowing. They even put it they put it right under Sims 3. Donkey Kong Country, the game with cutting-edge silicon graphics and a soundtrack that makes you feel 5 no matter how many times you listen to it. Donkey Kong Country, the definition of technological innovation in the age of retro gaming, which had nothing but limits, is still not as good as the arcade Donkey Kong Country game. And even that is not as good as Sims 3. My favorite part of this is when you read the article to see why they picked this. It's just a paragraph talking about how good the arcade cabinet looks. What is this? Okay. That's gonna be all the criticism that I felt like I had to discuss about this list. The whole point of me making this video was to point out how absurd the idea of a top insert number video games of all time list is. I personally feel like it would take a large group that could unanimously put together a list like this. Even then, it would probably be in the thousands range. You know, there's a lot of video games out there, no shit, and a lot of people hold these video games to their hearts. So when a big reputable company like IGN makes a list like this, the facts and considerations really need to be in line here before you can just proclaim a game being in a higher status than another game. You know, you might not have agreed with where I placed a game over another, and that's because you have an opinion, and that game might mean a lot more to you than what it meant to me. I personally feel like Ocarina of Time is the best, and that's not even my favorite game. I just chose that because of the replay value it has and how easy it is to recreate for another generation, basically solidifying it as a timeless classic. You know, the top 100 games of all time should kind of be like renamed to my top 100 video games of all time, or our top 100 video games of our time, or inserts author of the article's top 100 video games of all time. You know, when you're just saying the top, you know, it's almost like you're trying to speak for everybody, like who died and made you the decider of the top 100 video games of all time. And that wraps up today's video, everyone. This was certainly a long one, but nonetheless we got through it. We're at 223 subscribers now, which is just amazing. I will always appreciate everyone's support to the channel, and with all this being said, stay safe and take it easy.